How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be kept pretty brief because I have news for everyone. I got married. The past week and a half, I've really just been focusing on enjoying that moment in my life in the past week with my now wife. My wife's name is Emily, and we have been together for almost 9 years, which is a little longer than most people. However, we started a lot younger than most people. We started dating when I was a junior and she was a sophomore in high school. So we were 15 and 16. We were high school sweethearts, so this has been a long time coming and I couldn't be happier, and I'm sure that Emily would say the same. With such a big moment in our lives, I really decided to take the time to focus on being with my wife and enjoying the time that we had together. For those of you who are first starting off in a relationship or might be wondering how me and Em have made something that we started so early last so long and for us to be so happy, I have a few thoughts for y'all that I thought about a bit on this past week and a half. First off, don't rush things. Make sure that you're choosing someone that feels right to you. If you're having any serious doubts or concerns about your partner, you might really want to take some time to seriously consider the person that you're with. When you're coming together to form a lifetime partnership like marriage, you really want to take the time to ensure that you and your partner are compatible. You need to be able to have those hard conversations. You need to be able to talk about the things that are important to you. Em and I have had almost 9 years to do this. We've had a lot of ups and downs and things that we've been able to see how we each react to over the years. And not once in my mind has there really been a serious concern that we couldn't make something work. We have our fair share of differences, but there was never really a single point where I didn't think that was something that we could work on together and work out. If you have these things in your relationship, like for example, a big one, if y'all haven't talked about whether or not you want kids, these are important things that you need to discuss, and these fundamental differences can determine whether or not you will be successful from the get-go. If you find yourself fighting a lot, if you find yourself being unhappy more than you're happy, these are all signs that you need to pay attention to and be willing to listen to potentially move on and find something that is going to lead to that lifelong happiness. Do not rush anything because of your age. A lot of people have this huge worry in their mind about being too old to get married, but there's a lot of people who find love later on in life. So what's to say that being in your 30s or 40s is too old to get married? It's not. You should never rush into something that you're not particularly ready for or doesn't feel right with this particular partner that you're with. Take the time to ensure that this is someone that you really see yourself being with in the long term. It's my personal opinion that you should wait until you've been together for about 3 years at a minimum to really get a good understanding of each other and know whether or not you're going to be successful for the long term. I think a lot of people have those rose-colored glasses on for about the first year of their relationship where they're just madly and deeply in love with each other. And a lot of people are going to stay deeply in love with each other. But there's a difference between kind of having the visors on that cause you not to notice any of the things that might normally annoy you versus kind of moving into that later part of a relationship where you still feel the deep love, but it isn't necessarily infatuation where you just ignore things that you would normally be bothered by. Within this 3-year time period, I really think that most people should try to live together at some point. I get that that is not for everyone, and I completely understand that. I'm not saying that you have to do this, but in my personal opinion, you learn a lot about your partner by living with them. There's a lot of things that you don't see or learn about your partner when you're just seeing each other on certain schedules. You can prepare yourself to be the best version of yourself. Versus when you're living together, you start to see more of that person in their day-to-day environment and not necessarily when they're done up or making sure to behave their best to make sure that they're impressing you. These were both factors that were extremely important in my relationship with Emily, and that was something that we talked about early on and we kind of agreed on. Now, again, we started a lot younger than most people, so this process ended up taking a lot longer as we weren't able to start living together until about my junior/senior year of college. So at that point, we had already been together for several years, but there was still a lot that we learned about each other and how we manage our spaces, when we started living together. And so I really can't recommend it enough to anyone who's wondering if they should take the next step in their relationship. If you're considering getting married in the future, I really think that you should take a year or so to live together and get to know how you each live in your own space, because then you can learn whether or not the things that might annoy you or might bother you are things that you're willing to compromise on and work together on, or if it ends up being non-negotiables that you really can't see yourself dealing with in the long term. Again, when Em and I started living together, there was nothing that made me think, wow, I really can't be with this person, which was just another check mark that helped me be even more confident in the fact that I wanted to marry this girl. Finally, if you're in that phase where you're ready to get married, take time to enjoy the process. I have several friends who got engaged and decided that they were going to get married 6 months down the line. Em and I also had a long engagement. We ended up doing about a 2.5 year long engagement, and I'm very happy that we did. Now, again, most people don't need to do this long, but Em and I had just graduated college. We didn't have any money yet, so we needed to take some time to set up some savings for the wedding. And I'm glad that we ended up having this longer time frame because it allowed us to more enjoy the process than I feel like a lot of my friends who got married on a much shorter time frame did. Now, a word of caution, the last month or so of wedding planning ended up being just as stressful for us as it was for any of my friends. I think that last month there's a lot of small details, a lot of little things that you're trying to make sure you don't miss, and it's just gonna end up being a pretty hectic and stressful time. But what I think having the longer engagement allowed us to do was focus more on enjoying the process of everything leading up to that last month. We were actually able to sit down together and work through the different things that we wanted in our wedding rather than only one person taking on a lot of the stress, like I see with a lot of couples. Give yourself time to enjoy being engaged and take the process of wedding planning in digestible chunks. Don't throw so much on yourself all at once that it ends up being more stressful than it is enjoyable. This is supposed to be a celebration of your two's partnership in life. So take time to enjoy it. But that's gonna bring us to the end of this video. I'm gonna get off my soapbox. That was just some of my thoughts on a partnership with someone and what it ultimately can take to be successful in the long term. If you guys found the information to be helpful or insightful, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Otherwise, I'm gonna go ahead and get back to my wife. Thank you so much for watching. If you have interest in any of my most recent videos, be sure to check these out. Otherwise, this is the Mengineer, signing off.